She asked not to go with her stepfather, but the doctor decided to follow them. Hello. You are very welcome. Enjoy the content, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Emily was curled up in the corner of the sofa, her eyes fixed on the floor. The small space of the room felt even tighter, as if the walls were closing in around her. Her heart raced, and a cold feeling in her stomach made her restless. Mark, her stepfather, stood next to her, impatient, with his arms crossed over his chest and an expression that blended frustration and authority. Come on, Emily, you're already late. We need to leave for the appointment, Mark said, trying to impose a commanding tone. He leaned in a little, forcing eye contact that the girl avoided at all costs. But I don't want to go. Emily's voice was almost a whisper, filled with fear. She felt like a prisoner in her own home, and the thought of another meeting with Dr. Samantha Lewis terrified her. Why couldn't she stay home, where she felt safe? You don't have a choice. It's just a doctor's appointment. Stop being so difficult, Mark replied, his voice rising slightly, revealing the impatience he was hiding. He didn't seem to notice the tension building in the air, like a storm about to burst. Emily bit her lip, trying to hold back the tears that threatened to slip down her face. With a brusque gesture, he grabbed her hand and pulled her up. Emily stood up, but her feet felt heavy, as if each step was a struggle. As she left the house, she looked out the window, wishing that something magical would happen to stop her from going. But nothing happened. The world outside continued on its course, indifferent to her suffering. In the car, the atmosphere was tense. Mark drove with a closed expression, while Emily huddled in the back seat, looking out the window. The trees passed quickly, turning into green blurs. She took a deep breath, trying to calm herself, but the anxiety only grew. If only I could stay home, she thought. Mark's fear followed her like a shadow. Upon arriving at the clinic, the smell of disinfectant and the cold color of the white walls made her even more nervous. Mark firmly pulled her by the hand, and she felt the pressure on her skin. Let's hurry. We don't have all day, he murmured, dragging her down the hallway. What could be a welcoming environment for many children felt like a cell to Emily. When they entered the waiting room, Mark sat in a chair, keeping his gaze fixed on some point, while Emily, still standing, felt the gaze of strangers upon her. She felt exposed, as if everyone knew what was happening between them. The silence was disturbing, only broken by the sound of a child laughing at something that felt so distant to her. The door to the consultation room opened, and Dr. Samantha appeared, with a warm smile and a clipboard in her hands. Hi, Emily. How are you? She tried to convey a sense of safety, but Mark quickly intervened. She's fine. Let's just do this and get out of here, Mark said in an authoritative tone, while Emily looked away, feeling even smaller. The doctor noticed the expression of discomfort on the girl's face, and her heart tightened. There was something about that behavior that intrigued her. Emily, can you come with me? I'm going to ask you some questions and check how you are. Don't worry, it will be quick, said Samantha, trying to ignore Mark's intimidating presence. But before Emily could respond, Mark got up, positioning himself between them. She doesn't need any more questions. Just do what you have to do, he insisted, with a look that made it clear he was not willing to submit to any investigation. The tension in the room was palpable, and Samantha felt a chill run down her spine. Her concern for the girl grew with each passing second. I understand, but it's important that Emily feels comfortable. She may need a moment to talk about how she's feeling, the doctor replied, keeping her calm. Emily looked at Samantha, a small hope flickering in her eyes, but Mark was not willing to yield. Come on, Emily. We don't have time for this, he said, firmly taking the girl's hand. The doctor watched as they moved away, feeling that something was very wrong. The expression of fear on Emily's face stayed in her mind, and her determination to uncover the truth grew. During the consultation, the atmosphere in the room was thick, almost palpable. Dr. Samantha Lewis, an attentive and empathetic physician, cautiously observed the interaction between Emily and her stepfather, Mark. Emily, a 12-year-old girl, sat in the examination chair, her posture hunched and the expression on her face revealing deep fear. The doctor decided it was time to try to break the ice. "Hi, Emily," Samantha began with a warm smile. "How are you feeling today?" The girl hesitated, her gaze drifting to the floor. Mark, sitting next to her, crossed his arms, as if preparing for a verbal attack. "She's fine," he interrupted, his voice restrained but filled with a tension that made Samantha's eyes narrow. "It's always good to know you're fine," Samantha continued, keeping her tone light. "But I would like to hear from you, Emily. Is there something you would like to share?" Emily bit her lower lip, clearly struggling against something that seemed ready to come out. Finally, with a deep sigh, she looked at the doctor. I don't like going places with Mark," she murmured, almost inaudible. The declaration fell like a bomb in the room. Samantha's gaze filled with concern, but she maintained her composure. "Oh, I see. What exactly don't you like?" He gets angry," Emily replied, her voice trembling. "If I don't do what he wants, he gets very, very angry." Samantha's eyes widened upon hearing this. The worry in her heart intensified, and she leaned in a little closer, trying to convey security. "It's normal to be scared sometimes, Emily, but you should know that you're in a safe place now. You can talk to me." Mark looked at her with hostility, as if trying to intimidate her. "She's just being a difficult girl, doctor," he said, the tone of his voice revealing a control that Samantha felt was fading. "None of this is serious." "But what you feel is important, Emily," Samantha insisted, ignoring Mark. She noticed the girl's hands, which were visibly hurt. "Can you tell me more about what's going on?" Emily looked at her own hands, a gesture that Samantha perceived as a sign of pain and vulnerability. I'm just scared," the girl said, tears starting to form in her eyes. "When I don't do what he wants, he gets very angry. And sometimes he hurts me." The confession hit Samantha like a blow. She felt a knot in her throat, and the urgency to act intensified. "No one should be afraid of someone they love," Samantha said softly, trying to comfort her. "You are not alone, Emily. I am here to help you." Mark, now visibly irritated, tried to change the subject. "She's exaggerating. It's just a phase, doctor. Kids have vivid imaginations, you know?" He forced a smile, but it was clear that the tension was rising. Samantha kept her gaze fixed on Emily, who was now silently crying. "You can trust me, Emily. If you are in danger, there are people who can help." Emily looked at Mark and, in a moment that seemed to last an eternity, finally decided to open up. "I don't want to go home with him. I'm scared," she whispered, and the fragility in her voice made Samantha's heart ache. The doctor felt it was time to act. She needed to investigate more about Emily's situation, but she also needed to be cautious. The last thing she wanted was to worsen the situation for the girl. With a slight nod, she promised, "I will do whatever it takes to ensure you are safe. You don't have to go through this alone." As the meeting unfolded, Samantha became increasingly determined to uncover the truth behind the facade Mark maintained. The connection she was forming with Emily was a light in the darkness, and the doctor knew she needed to move forward, not just for her own conscience, but primarily for the girl before her, so full of fear and vulnerability. Samantha Lewis was at home, sitting at the kitchen table, with a cup of coffee cooling in front of her. The soft morning light poured through the window, but her mind was far from the tranquility of the scene. She watched her husband, David, distractedly scrolling through his phone, and felt a pang of frustration. The conversation unfolding between them was almost routine, an exchange of empty words that led nowhere. "You're really not going to tell me how your day was?" Samantha asked, breaking the awkward silence. David glanced up briefly, but quickly turned his gaze back to his phone screen. "It was fine, as always." "And yours?" He responded automatically, as if the question were a formality. "I saw a girl today, Emily. She was so scared." The words slipped out before she could hold them back. Samantha stood up and began pacing the kitchen, her concern for the girl growing in her heart. I feel like something is wrong with her, David. The way she flinched when her stepfather arrived, it's as if she was bracing for the worst. You know how these appointments go. Sometimes kids are just scared, he replied, but the lack of empathy in his voice bothered her. You can't save everyone, Samantha. The doctor stopped and looked at him, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. But I have to try, don't I? This girl needs help, and it seems like no one is paying attention. I can't just sit here and ignore it. David sighed and leaned back in his chair, looking at his wife with an expression of weariness. And what do you plan to do? You can't just go around trying to solve other people's problems. What about us? We need to talk about our relationship, about how we are drifting apart. His words hit her like a punch to the gut. Samantha knew he was partly right, but the urgency to protect Emily made her feel like she couldn't allow herself to stop. I'm trying to understand what's happening with her, David. I feel like she's not safe. And that makes me think about my own vulnerability and yours. The room fell silent, and Samantha felt the tension between them grow. She didn't want to argue, but the idea of leaving a child in danger consumed her. The memory of Emily's terrified look haunted her, and the doctor felt powerless. I need to do something, she said, almost to herself. In that moment, the idea of contacting a social worker began to take shape in her mind. Maybe if I can find someone who has experience with cases like hers, we could investigate further. And what if you're wrong? David questioned, raising an eyebrow. What will you do if you find out there's nothing wrong? You could end up causing more problems for the girl. Samantha shook her head, determined. I can't ignore this, David. I'm going to reach out to Sarah. She has always worked with abuse cases. If there's any evidence, we need to act fast. David watched her, and for a moment, Samantha saw a flicker of concern in his eyes. If you think this is the right thing to do, I can't stop you. But just be careful. Sometimes, things aren't what they seem. Samantha nodded, feeling a bit more confident. Determination grew within her. She grabbed her phone and started looking for Sarah's number, her fellow social worker. As she typed, she thought about how Emily's life could change if someone truly cared. A spark of hope began to blossom in her heart, and she knew she couldn't back down now. The girl's life was at stake, and Samantha was willing to face any obstacle to protect her. Samantha Lewis sat in a cozy cafe, the aroma of fresh coffee and homemade pastries filling the air. She was anxious, nervously fiddling with her cup as she waited for Sarah, the social worker she had decided to enlist to help with Emily's case. The restlessness in her heart was palpable. The girl's situation weighed heavily on her mind, and she knew she needed support. When Sarah entered, her brown hair pulled back in a casual bun and a determined look on her face, Samantha felt a little more relieved. Hi, Samantha. Sorry for the delay, Sarah said, quickly sitting down across from the doctor. I had to deal with some paperwork. So, how is Emily's situation? Samantha took a deep breath, trying to organize her thoughts. I'm really worried about her. The way she acted during the appointment, she didn't want to be there, and Mark was very controlling. I felt like something was wrong. That's not uncommon in such cases, Sarah replied, her expression understanding. You did the right thing by calling me. I've worked in similar situations, and I can help you find a way to approach this without putting Emily at risk. Samantha's eyes lit up. What do you suggest? I feel like we need to act quickly, but I don't want to alarm Mark. We need to be discreet. We can infiltrate Emily's life, talk to her teachers, friends, and even neighbors. The goal is to gather information and, if necessary, evidence of what's happening, Sarah explained, her voice calm and controlled. That makes sense, Samantha agreed. But what if Mark finds out what we're doing? We need to be careful. We can use the pretext that we are conducting a mental health assessment. Often, children feel more comfortable talking to people who are not directly connected to their family, Sarah suggested, taking a sip of her coffee. Samantha nodded, absorbing every word. You're right. If we can create a safe environment for Emily, maybe we can better understand what's going on. We can start with the school. If Emily is frequently missing classes, that could be a clear sign that something is wrong, Sarah commented, jotting down notes in a notebook in front of her. Great idea. We can schedule a meeting with her teachers and the educational staff. And also, it would be good to talk to some of her classmates, said Samantha, already starting to plan the next steps. As the two women discussed strategies, a sense of urgency grew between them. Samantha couldn't shake the image of Emily from her mind. The small girl, with sad eyes and hurt hands. She needs us, Samantha said, determination taking over her voice. And we won't stop until we can help her, Sarah asserted, her gaze firm. We have to be her voice, even if it means facing Mark or anything else. They continued talking, mapping out a plan to approach Emily without raising suspicions. The cafe around them seemed like a world apart, while the urgency of the situation enveloped them in a bubble of focus and determination. What was at stake was much bigger than either of them could imagine, but the strength of their partnership and the solidarity they were beginning to form were the first steps toward protecting Emily. As the conversation progressed, Samantha felt a rebirth of hope. Together, they could make a difference. And, looking at Sarah, she knew that the fight for Emily's safety was just beginning. Samantha and Sarah were sitting in a cozy cafe, sunlight filtering through the windows as they prepared a plan to investigate Emily's situation. The doctor, her mind buzzing with concern, looked at her social worker friend. We need to find out more about her life at school. Something isn't right, and we can't let it slide. Sarah nodded, stirring her cup of coffee. I agree. I spoke with some teachers earlier, and they mentioned that Emily misses a lot of classes. She doesn't seem to connect with the other students, and that's a clear sign that something is wrong. She always seems so scared, Samantha said, recalling Emily's look during the consultation. And the marks on her hands. That's unacceptable. We need to gather evidence, something that can really make a difference. As they talked, the two decided that the first step would be to visit Emily's school. The next morning, they arrived at the institution, a simple building surrounded by a playground. The principal, a middle-aged woman with a kind expression, greeted them with a curious look. We're worried about one of your students, Emily, Samantha began, her voice firm and determined. She has been missing classes and seems anxious. Could you tell us about her situation? The principal frowned, thoughtful. Emily is a very quiet child. She is smart, but she has isolated herself quite a bit. She doesn't have many friends and often refuses to participate in group activities. It's a shame because she has a lot of potential. Have you noticed any behaviors that might indicate something is wrong at home? Sarah asked, observing the principal's expression. Actually, yes. Sometimes, she seems scared or nervous. Once, I saw her curled up in a corner during recess. When I asked if everything was okay, she just smiled and said she was tired. But I felt like there was something more, the principal replied, her voice carrying genuine concern. Samantha and Sarah exchanged meaningful glances. We need to talk to her classmates. They might have seen something we didn't notice, suggested Samantha. After the meeting, they headed to Emily's classroom. Upon entering, they noticed the child sitting alone at a desk, drawing. Samantha approached, while Sarah spoke with the teacher. Hi, Emily, Samantha said with a soft smile. Do you remember me? I'm your doctor. Emily looked up, hesitant. Hi, she replied in a whisper. Can you tell us a little about what your life is like at school? Do you have friends here? Samantha asked. I like to draw, Emily said, avoiding the doctor's gaze. But I don't like to play with the others. I prefer to be alone. At that moment, Sarah joined the conversation, asking, Emily, do you feel safe here? Is there anything that bothers you? I don't know. Emily hesitated, insecurity evident in her eyes. Sometimes, I just want to go home. Samantha said goodbye to the girl, her heart heavy as she realized how alone and isolated she was. They stepped away and began to gather information. They spoke with some classmates who confirmed Emily's isolated behavior. One boy, when asked, said, She never wants to play. I invite her, but she always says no. It's strange, commented another girl. Sometimes, I hear shouting coming from her house, but I never asked what it was. The comment made Samantha and Sarah exchange alarmed glances. They needed to investigate further, and this information was a clear red flag. As the day approached its end, they decided it was time to talk to Emily's neighbors. As they approached a nearby house, they were greeted by an elderly woman watering her plants. "Sorry to bother you, but do you know Emily's family?" Sarah asked. The woman stopped, looking at them. "Yes, I know a little. It's a shame, but I've heard shouting and arguments coming from that house. I never knew what was going on, but it doesn't seem like a healthy environment for a child." Samantha felt her stomach churn upon hearing that. "Thank you for sharing this. It's very important for us." As they walked back to the car, the weight of responsibility began to feel more intense. "We need to act quickly," Samantha said, determined. "Emily needs help, and we can't wait any longer." Samantha felt adrenaline coursing through her veins as she drove toward Mark's house. The decision to confront him was risky, and in her mind, she pondered whether she was doing the right thing. Deep down, she knew she had to act. Emily couldn't continue living under the same roof as that man. With her heart racing, she parked the car in front of the house and looked in the rearview mirror to check if she was alone. The facade of the place seemed normal, but the tension emanating from it was palpable. She climbed the steps and knocked on the door. The sound echoed, and after a few moments that felt like an eternity, Mark answered, with an expression that mixed surprise and distrust. "What are you doing here, doctor?" "Hi, Mark. I'm Samantha Lewis, Emily's doctor. I'd like to talk to you a bit about today's appointment," she said, trying to keep her voice calm despite her nervousness. Mark crossed his arms, a gesture that made it clear he was preparing for a battle. "If that's all, you can leave. Emily is fine. No need to worry." "I'm not just worried about her physical health, Mark. I'm concerned about her emotional well-being too," Samantha replied, trying to keep firmness in her voice. "She seems scared, and that's not normal for a child." "Scared? You're exaggerating. Emily is just a difficult girl, and I'm trying to raise her," he retorted, the defensive tone growing with each word. "She needs to understand that she can't do whatever she wants." Samantha felt a chill in her stomach, realizing she was navigating dangerous waters. Education shouldn't involve fear, Mark. She should feel safe and loved. What she told me today worried me. Mark stepped forward, his eyes darkening with anger. "What do you mean by that? That I'm a bad father? You don't know anything about me or what happens here. I know that you're controlling and intimidating her." "I saw that at the clinic," Samantha said, determined not to back down. "She doesn't feel safe around you. What you're doing to your daughter isn't normal." "You don't know what you're talking about," he shouted, his voice echoing through the neighborhood. "You're just a doctor, not a mother. You have no right to judge me." The tension in the air was heavy, and Samantha realized that the conversation was quickly becoming dangerous. "Mark, I just want to help Emily," she said, trying to show empathy. "If you really care about her, you should be willing to listen." He laughed, but it wasn't a genuine laugh. It was a bitter laugh, full of contempt. "Listen? You think I'm going to listen to a stranger who has only seen my daughter a few times? You're naive." Samantha felt suffocated by anger and frustration, but she couldn't let that overwhelm her. "You may see me as a stranger, but I'm the only person willing to listen to the truth. And the truth is that Emily needs protection. If you keep this up, someone will intervene." Mark narrowed his eyes, his face red with fury. "Intervene? You have no idea what you're getting into. I'm not afraid of you or anyone you bring. This is my house, and you have no right to threaten me." Samantha took a step back, realizing she was playing Russian roulette recklessly. "It's not a threat, Mark. It's a concern. I'm not here to fight, but to help. If you love Emily, you need to rethink your actions." He stepped even closer, and the doctor could smell the alcohol on his breath. "Get out of my house now." His voice was low, but filled with a venom that made her tremble. I'm not leaving until you understand that your daughter's emotional health is just as important as her physical health. What you're doing is hurting her, and I can't ignore that," she replied, determined. The silence that followed was deafening, and Samantha knew she had crossed a line. Mark watched her with a hostile look, but inside, she also felt a mix of compassion and sadness. He was so trapped in his own pain that he didn't see how much he was hurting Emily. "Be a real father, Mark," she said before stepping away. "I hope you can find help." The doctor left the house feeling a weight in her heart. The confrontation had resolved nothing, but at least the seed of doubt had been planted. She knew the road ahead was long, but she was willing to fight for Emily, even if it meant facing the storm that was to come. Samantha and Sarah met at a cozy cafe downtown, away from the usual hustle and bustle, but close enough to feel safe and comfortable. The aroma of fresh coffee and the soft buzz of conversations around them created a conducive environment to discuss something so delicate. Both were tense, acknowledging the importance of the moment they were about to have. "We need to be careful, Samantha. What we're dealing with here is serious and requires us to have a solid plan," Sarah said, nervously stirring her cup as her hands trembled slightly. "I know, Sarah. I can't stop thinking about how Emily must be feeling. It's like we're racing against time. If Mark finds out what we're doing, it could be dangerous for her," Samantha replied, concern etched on her face. They decided that the first thing to do was to gather people from the community who could help. Samantha, who had always had a good relationship with the parents of the school students, began to outline a plan. "We need a strong group. Parents, teachers, everyone who can come together for Emily," she stated, looking directly into Sarah's eyes. "I agree. We can hold a meeting at the school. That way, we can share what we know and raise awareness among others," Sarah suggested, already starting to take notes in her notebook. "We need to ensure everyone understands the gravity of the situation without causing panic." Samantha nodded. "Okay, then let's start reaching out to the parents and teachers. We need them to understand that if we don't act, we might be putting Emily at even greater risk." The two women, after a few weeks of quiet and discreet work, managed to organize the meeting at the school. The day finally arrived, and the room was full. The worried faces of parents and teachers looked at them, waiting for an explanation. "Thank you all for being here," Samantha began, her voice steady but with a slight tremor of nervousness. "We are here because of a girl named Emily. Her situation is serious, and if we don't act together, we may lose the chance to protect her." "But what exactly is going on?" a father asked, visibly worried. "How can we help if we don't know what's happening?" Sarah intervened, calmly explaining, "Emily is in an abusive situation. We believe her stepfather, Mark, is the source of this abuse. We need your help to protect this child before it's too late." Murmurs began to spread across the room, and Samantha raised her hand to ask for silence. "We have reports of concerning behaviors and signs that she is not safe at home. We need to join forces and ensure she has a safe environment." A mother, with tears in her eyes, stood up. "How can we help? What can we do? We need to be Emily's eyes and ears. If you notice anything suspicious, if she opens up to you, we need you to inform us immediately. We are also thinking of creating a support system in the community. A safety net where everyone can collaborate," replied Samantha, now more confident. "That's a great idea," said a teacher. "We can organize activities where we can involve Emily and other kids. This way, they will have a safe and supervised space to socialize, away from any negative influence." As the meeting progressed, the energy in the room changed. People were mobilizing, determined to help. "Let's form committees. One group to communicate with the authorities, another to organize activities. And we need a communication channel where everyone can share information," suggested Sarah, excited by the support she felt. "We're all in this together," said a parent, clapping. "We'll do whatever it takes to keep Emily safe." When the meeting came to an end, the determination and solidarity were palpable. Samantha and Sarah left the school feeling relieved. The support they had managed to gather was a sign that the community was willing to act. "It was a success," said Samantha, with a smile on her face. "Now we have an army on our side." "Yes, and this is just the beginning. Together, we can make a difference," Sarah added, full of hope. Both knew that the fight was far from over, but at least now Emily had a support network ready to protect her. The sun was beginning to set, casting a golden light over the city, as Samantha and Sarah gathered in a room at the local school to discuss the rescue plan for Emily. The walls were adorned with colorful posters from school events, but the atmosphere in the room was tense and serious. The two women knew that the moment approaching was decisive and that every detail needed to be carefully planned. "We need to make sure Emily feels safe, that she understands we're here for her," said Sarah, looking into Samantha's eyes. "We can't let Mark suspect anything. He's unpredictable and could complicate everything." "I agree," replied Samantha, running her hand through her hair. "We need to create an event that seems harmless, something that attracts everyone's attention but, at the same time, gives us an opportunity to act. And what if Mark refuses to let Emily go? In that case, we need a quick exit. We can ask him to step back, claiming the event is just for kids." Sarah paused, thoughtful. "If we can distract him, we'll have a chance." Samantha nodded, feeling the urgency of the situation. "Let's organize a spring party, a recreational activity with games, music, and food. Kids love that, and Mark won't be able to resist an event that involves fun." "Great idea. We can invite all the students from the school and their parents. That way, Mark's presence won't raise any suspicions," suggested Sarah, starting to jot down ideas in a notebook. "We also need a group of volunteers, people from the community who are willing to help. The more support we have, the safer the situation will be for Emily," continued Samantha, already imagining how she could mobilize others. The two women began to outline a detailed plan, listing activities that could take place during the party. Team games, a small musical performance, and even a painting booth for the kids. Each idea that emerged brought a little more hope for what they were about to do. "What about talking to Emily's teachers?" Sarah asked, raising an eyebrow. "They can help ensure she's really excited about the event." "Yes, we need everyone on the same page. I'll talk to the principal and ask him to make an announcement in class, encouraging everyone to participate," Samantha replied, feeling the pressure increase, but also an unwavering determination. This could be the key to everything. The day of the party was approaching quickly, and with the support of the community, the plan began to take shape. Posters were spread throughout the school and neighborhood, inviting everyone to the event. Sarah and Samantha made sure that the logistical details, such as food and activities, were in order. The atmosphere of unity and solidarity was palpable. On the morning of the event, Samantha arrived early to help with the setup. She saw kids running around, excited and eager. Their smiles were contagious, but her concern for Emily still weighed on her heart. "I hope she feels comfortable opening up today," she thought as she adjusted the final details. "Hi, Samantha." A familiar voice called her attention. It was one of Emily's teachers, Mr. Costa, who approached with a smile. "I'm really excited about the party. I saw that you organized everything with a lot of care." "Thank you, Mr. Costa. We hope this helps bring some joy to the kids, especially to Emily," Samantha replied, trying to hide the tension in her voice. "She really needs support. I notice how lonely she feels sometimes," the teacher commented, looking around. "If you need any help, just let me know." Samantha smiled, grateful for the solidarity. "I appreciate it, and I will definitely need it. We're going to do this together, for her." As the party began and music filled the air, Samantha watched the guests. Mark hadn't arrived yet, and a momentary relief washed over her. She knew this was the moment when everything could change. While the kids played and laughed, she prepared for what was to come. The hope and determination to protect Emily pulsed within her, and she would not give up. The day of the event had arrived, and the small community square was decorated with colorful balloons and welcome banners. Upbeat music resonated through the air as children ran around, laughing and playing. Samantha watched everything with a mix of anxiety and hope. She was sure this was the best strategy to get Emily away from Mark's oppressive influence, even if just for a few hours. "Look how happy she seems," commented Sarah, who was next to Samantha, with a smile on her face. "Finally, a chance to just be a kid." Samantha nodded, but her gaze was fixed on Emily, who was playing with some other children. Her face lit up with a glow that hadn't been seen in a long time. "We need to make sure she feels safe here. If Mark shows up, he can't. We invited him to stay away, and the community is united. No one will let him get close," Sarah replied, trying to convey confidence. Meanwhile, Emily was in a corner of the party, watching a group of boys playing ball. One of them, Lucas, noticed her hesitation and approached. "Hey, do you want to play with us? Just kick the ball." Emily looked at him, a small shy smile appearing on her lips. I've never played before." "No problem. Just have fun. Come on." Lucas pulled her by the hand, and she hesitated for a moment but ended up following him, surprised by the feeling of freedom. "Look, she's having fun," Samantha exclaimed as she watched Emily interact with the other kids. Her heart filled with hope. That's what she needs. In the middle of the party, Sarah approached Emily, who was now sitting on a swing, taking deep breaths. "Hi, Emily. How are you feeling?" "It's nice here," the girl replied, swinging her feet. "I've never seen so many people smiling. It's a safe place. You feel comfortable, right?" Sarah spoke gently, remembering the conversation they had during the doctor's appointment. The fear in Emily's eyes was still present, but there was a spark of confidence beginning to shine. "Yeah, but what about Mark? Is he coming back?" Emily's voice trembled, and Sarah realized the girl was still carrying a heavy burden. "No, sweetheart. Today is a special day for you. No one is going to let him hurt you. I promise," Sarah said, trying to convey the calm she so desperately wanted. Emily looked at Sarah, her eyes seeking confirmation. "Do you promise?" "I promise. And you know what? If you feel ready, you can tell me what's going on. We're here to help you," Sarah offered, her voice soft as a whisper of hope. Emily hesitated, but the welcoming atmosphere and Sarah's sincerity seemed to be breaking down the barriers she had built over time. "Sometimes he yells and hurts me," the girl finally revealed, her voice barely audible. Sarah felt a knot form in her throat, but maintained her composure. "Thank you for trusting me, Emily. You are very brave. And remember, you're not alone. We are going to take care of you." At that moment, the music changed to a softer song, and the children began to gather for a group dance. Samantha, sensing the atmosphere, decided it was the right moment. She approached Emily, who was still on the swing, and crouched down to be at her level. "Emily, would you like to dance?" Samantha asked with a sparkle in her eyes. "Dance?" The girl looked at the crowd and saw others having fun. "I want to." Samantha extended her hand, and Emily took it, rising with a hesitant smile. They joined the group, and the doctor guided the girl, moving smoothly to the rhythm of the music. Emily's smile widened, and the joy filling her heart was palpable. "You're a wonderful dancer. Look how you shine," Samantha encouraged her. The party continued, and as the music enveloped everyone in an atmosphere of celebration, Emily finally felt a little more free. The community around her was not just a group of people. It was a support network, a place where she could, for one day, forget the fear and just be a kid. After the revelation of the abuse, the atmosphere in the community was one of palpable tension but also relief. As Mark was confronted by the police at his home, Emily was in a corner of the party, surrounded by supportive people, yet still felt the weight of the situation. The sound of a distant siren echoed in her ears, reminding her that the life she knew was changing forever. Samantha was beside Sarah, watching the scene unfold. "I just hope she's safe," Samantha said, her voice trembling. "I never imagined it would come to this." "She's in good hands now," Sarah replied, trying to calm her. "The police are already aware of the situation. This is the first time she can truly feel free. Meanwhile, inside Mark's house, the tension was rising. The man was standing, surrounded by police officers, his face red with anger. "I didn't do anything. This is ridiculous," he shouted, gesturing aggressively. "That girl is a liar." "Sir, we have enough evidence to take you into custody," one of the officers stated calmly. "You'd better cooperate." Outside, the party continued. Emily was sitting on a bench, still in shock. Sarah approached and crouched beside her. "Emily, are you okay? If you need to talk, I'm here." The girl looked at Sarah, tears in her eyes. "I'm scared, and at the same time, I feel like I can finally breathe," she replied, her voice low and hesitant. "I know this is hard, but you've been very brave. Your voice is important, and now you will be safe," Sarah said, offering an encouraging smile. Soon, the police came out of Mark's house, accompanied by an officer holding handcuffs. Mark was taken away, still screaming that it was all a conspiracy. "You don't know anything. That girl needs discipline, not protection," he yelled as he was led away, the police car doors closing behind him. With the situation under control, Samantha approached Emily, now surrounded by other community adults. "Emily, sweetheart, you're safe now. We will take care of you," she said, running her hand through the girl's hair. "I don't know what's going to happen to me," Emily replied, her gaze lost. "You're going to stay with a family that cares for you. They will give you all the love and support you need," Samantha explained, trying to convey reassurance. "But what about Mark? Is he coming back?" the girl questioned, uncertainty still overwhelming her. "No, Emily. He won't be able to hurt you again. We will make sure you are safe," Samantha assured her while a group of volunteers gathered to discuss the next steps. After some time, a couple from the community introduced themselves to Emily. "Hi, sweetheart. We are the Lopez, and we will be here to take care of you for now. Would you like to have some ice cream with us?" suggested the woman with a warm smile. Emily hesitated, but the offer seemed tempting. Ice cream?" she repeated, almost as if testing the possibility. "Yes, we have chocolate and vanilla. Which one do you prefer?" the man asked with a friendly expression. "Chocolate," Emily replied, finally breaking into a small smile. Meanwhile, Samantha and Sarah watched the interaction. "She's starting to open up," Sarah commented, her expression hopeful. "Yes, it's a start. Now we need to ensure she receives the psychological support she needs," Samantha said, determined. The party continued, but the real celebration was just beginning. The community came together, forming a protective network around Emily. Conversations about therapy and psychological support spread among the adults while the children played, oblivious to what had happened, but aware that a new friend was among them. As the days went by, Emily adapted to her new temporary home. The Lopez couple welcomed her with care, and each passing day was a new chance for her to heal her emotional wounds. During a therapy session, Emily finally felt comfortable enough to talk about what she had been through. "I just wanted to be heard," she told the therapist, her voice now steady. And so, Emily's story transformed into a message of hope, showing that even in the darkest circumstances, courage and solidarity can bring forth a new beginning. Mark, for his part, began to confront his own demons, seeking therapy and reflecting on his actions, which could open a door to a possible reconciliation in the future. A future where, who knows, healing could be a reality for everyone involved. I sincerely hope that you were enchanted by this story. I'm sure the next video that appears to you will also touch your heart. So, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any of our next stories. A big hug and see you next time.